Everybody, welcome to Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. What's up, Michael Deeb, my partner in crime in San Francisco? How are you today, sir?
PIC, JP, we are going to look at we looked at a 911 Targa convertible the other day, and we said it was iconic. I think the car that we're going to look at today is also iconic for the model that we're going to cover. So pretty excited about today's car. This is going to be fun.
All right. Well, that's what we do is talk about cars. For those of you who are new to the channel, number one, welcome. Go ahead and hit the subscribe, like, and notification button because we need you. We need you as part of the Nerd Herd. What we do here is this isn't a typical car review show, right? We don't just talk about a car and what's good about it and what's not good about it. We talk about a specific car that's up for auction right now. We talk about all the good things, all the bad things, what makes it the most interesting car of the day. And then we make a prediction as to what's going to happen with that car's auction results. And then at the end of the show, we go into the future and we show you the results. We reconcile our predictions with what actually happens, proving most often that we're a couple of idiots that don't know what we're doing, which is why we rely so much on the Nerd Herd out there, the folks that watch the show, our audience. We love your comments because so often the bids that you guys contribute, you play along with our little Price is Right game, and so often you guys are way closer than we are, and so we love to have you guys play along. All right, well, let's get to the most interesting car of the day. This is not a car that our sponsor, Godin Porsche of Las Vegas, I'd be surprised to see this car on their lot, but I guess this is definitely something that someone would trade in on a classic Porsche. What is our most interesting car of the day today, Michael Deeb? Look at this thing.
Nobody in their right mind would ever trade this car in. JP, if you own this car, you would never sell it. Look at this. Look at that car. Oh my God.
That's
okay.
Goodness.
On Bring a Trailer, basically like 5 days from now, they are going to sell this 1992 Volkswagen Golf GTi 16 valve. I think this is the iconic Mark II Volkswagen. JP, whenever we say the word GTi, this is the car that I picture in my mind, not the original boxy one from '84. I picture this car with the two different size headlights, the Recaro seats, the BBS wheels, the paint under the bumpers. To me, this is the most iconic version of the GTA. All the other ones are compared to this in my mind. I think this is, even though it's not the original, I just think it's the pinnacle. I love this car in every way. Our car shows just 53,000 original miles out of Middletown, Connecticut. And John, when was the last time you saw a GTi in this condition, especially from this era? This is a just super, super neat car. I'm super excited that we're covering this thing. 2-liter, 16-valve motor, 5-speed manual transmission, front-wheel drive, sunroof, rear spoiler, air conditioning. It's got all the things you'd expect from the era, the 90s. The cars really started to grow up. It's so fascinating, John, when we look at the spec and say, how is it that we were so nuts about this car as a performance car when it only made 134 horsepower and it only offered 133 pound-foot of torque? I know you could do little modifications to coax a little bit more out of that motor, but it's mind-boggling to think you could have that much fun with so little specification under the hood. But the condition of this car drives everything. One of my very first car, John, was an 85 Audi 4000S Quattro, and it was in the exact same paint recipe, tornado red. I never much cared for it, but when I look at the photos of this car, man, it brings me back. Man, I want to own this car. This thing is really cool. I love everything about it. Good luck to everybody involved. This one just brings a huge smile to my face. JP, tell me, when was the last time you stood next to a car that original in that nice a condition? I bet you it's been decades since you've seen one this good.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen one this nice since probably 1990 something. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We talk about 911s ad nauseum. We just over and over and
Yeah.
over again, to the point where, it's a little ridiculous, how maybe too much, right? When we talk about air cooled 911s, we always talk about like the last of the G bodies, the G50 transmission with the 3.2 engine and all that kind of stuff. This GTI is kind of like that. The Mark II is probably, the most iconic generation of GTI, like you said. And this one has all the best bits: the 2-liter engine, the Recaro seats, all those things that you talked about, the non-diving board bumpers, like you were talking about, the right wheels, the headlights, all the things that you want in a GTI. All the other manufacturers were just chasing after this car, trying, Festivas, and everybody wants to be this car. This is the car that made the hot hatch what it is today. There are hot hatches that exist that still, can't hold a candle to this car, even though it may not have the performance of something like a Focus RS. A Focus RS wants to be this car. This is what it wants to be when it grows up. Interesting about this car is that they weren't super popular at the time. I mean, the 92, this is the last year of the Mark II, right? If you think about it,
sell?
What's that? Well, I mean, think about
they struggle to sell them?
Yeah, think about Volkswagen in this era. You still had the Corrado was for sale at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of cannibalizing these cars. They still, Scirocco's, they stopped in 88, but they were still around. Scirocco's were still for sale brand new as late as like 1990 in America. There were so many extra ones. They just weren't that popular car, and they were still making Scirocco's in Europe. So you could get a Scirocco, or you could get a GTI, or you could get a Corrado, all with this engine, with this powertrain. It wasn't until they brought out the VR6 that they had something different. So, I mean, the GTI in this spec, most of them were sold with the 8-valve engine, the smaller engine, because those were a bargain. They were a lot less money than the 16-valve version. And once you were looking at the 16-valve version, you weren't that far away from getting a Corrado. So who would buy this instead of a Corrado at the time? I mean, looking back at it, most of us would rather have this car than a Corrado. But at the time, the Corrado was like the new thing.
JP, what did this thing cost?
Oh, that's
roughly
a good question.
Do you remember? Were
It had to have been
over
like
20 grand?
It was probably just under that. I mean, it had to be in the high teens, I think. Yeah, something like that. That's a very good question. Somebody out in the comments knows this. Out in the audience knows this. Put it in the comments below.
Help Deeb out. I'm just curious what these were brand new, just roughly, ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, because the Mark II 8 valves were like just over $10,000. They were like 11 or $12,000. They were a total bargain, right? Because they actually had a little bit more torque than the 16 valve. You had to wind up the 16 valve. The 8 valves only had like 108 or something like that horsepower, so a lot less than the top end, but arguably the more fun, car. But 2-liter was really the right size for the 16 valve platform. All right. Anyways, yeah, I am gushing over this car. The thing we never see is cars like this in this condition. Like you said, I can't remember seeing one with this few miles and this nice.
JP, you'll remember this summer we had a nice run of Rabbit Cabriolets with manuals that were in good condition, like really good condition. A lot of white cars and white leather and white wheels and stuff like that. We used to call them bitch buckets, you remember. But we just don't see GTIs.
Shout out to our friend Jason Alter.
Yeah,
a white bitch
Jason
bucket.
Alter. And Jason Camissa, who still has ones. Yeah. But this GTI, this Mark II 16-valve GTI, oh boy, like you said, JP, it ticks every single box. So our car closes several days from now, and yet it's already at $23,000 on just 8 bids. JP, hold on to your ball cap, because I am going to go $38,000 on this car, because when was the last time you saw one like this? I don't recall. And if this car went over 40, I wouldn't be surprised. I would say that's the power of bring a trailer. This could be one of those cars that's a bright spot, even if we're right and the market is softening. Anybody who's wanted one of these cars, anybody that's our age, John, that theoretically could have had the opportunity to drive one of these when we were younger. Now you see one and you can sort of like, you get a chance to buy your youth back. I could see somebody plunking down a lot of greenbacks for this car. So I'm going to go big. I'm going to say 38,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it was over. On paper, this car should not be worth more than 25 to 30,000. But there are zero comps in our, God, almost, we're coming up on our third year of doing Bid Nerds. We have not seen this car come to market before, and we've been watching almost everything for 3 years.
Yeah,
So
this is a crazy anomaly. I'm going 40 grand. We
right.
saw that bitch bucket, at that number, and yeah, that was at a higher part of the market, 4 or 5 months ago. But even that was a high watermark for any Volkswagen. And this car is, I mean, a bitch bucket, a cabrio is what we're talking about, like an 88, or no, it was like a 92 or 93 Mark. So technically the cabrios were always Mark ones. They never made a,
right.
yeah. So those cars don't hold a candle to this car. I mean, a GTi, Mark II GTi is everything you want in a water pumper Volkswagen. There's no new Volkswagen. They don't make a new Volkswagen that I would rather have than this GTi.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second, because brand new Volkswagens, I mean, the EV thing, that's like a $50,000 thing. They make the Atlas.
Golf
there's
R.
like a 70,000. Yeah, Golf R. Yeah, Golf R.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even blink between that question. Would you rather have a Golf R or a Mark II GTi? This particular Mark II GTi in this condition, like it's not even remotely a question. Even a brand spanking new one. Even now, here's what I'm saying. Here's where my money where my mouth is, right? People always say, "Oh yeah, I for 40 or if my number is 40 grand, I would rather only spend $40,000 on this car rather than the 50 something that a Golf R would be." No, I'm saying if someone were to give me either of these cars, knowing that the Golf R is worth more cash value, I would still rather have the Mark II GTi, this particular Mark II GTi. Volkswagen does not make a car that I want compared to this. So how about you guys out there? What do you think? Is this Mark II gonna set a new high watermark despite things going on in the market?
Are bids soft? Is this car gonna bring $50,000? If it did, you'd really be comparing it to the value of a current Golf R. And I wouldn't be surprised by that, because again, there are no comps for this car over the last several years. JP, when I look at the condition of this car, this is the condition I imagine your friend's GLI is up in the Pacific Northwest. Shout out to your friend that I keep begging him to sell me his car.
I'll have to reach out to him, see if he's ready. I know his son just wiped out the R32 that he bought for him on Breeding a Trailer a couple of years ago. He didn't total it. There's a famous road. He's okay though, right? He's fine. I mean, other than being young and dumb, he took his R32 on a famous road, the Ben Howard Road, one of our favorite roads to drive on. And there's this one corner that has taken out a lot of us. And the poor kid slid off the road and didn't damage the car, really. He got lucky. He went in the mud and no dents, no big, no bent trailing arms or anything like that. But the young man was not so good on the clutch, and he burnt the clutch out trying to get the car out of the ditch. So I'm not naming names, but those of you who know who I'm talking about, come on, kid.
Bummer. There's a racetrack in Canada, and the last turn on the track before you hit the mid straight has a wall right on the outside of the turn, and the wall is called Champions Wall because every single driver has crashed into that wall either during practice or during the race. So it sounds like that's the same thing you guys have up there in Washington.
Yeah. All right, guys, let us know what your bids are right now. Lock them in. We're gonna take a quick break while we fire up the future machine, and we will see you in the future right after this with the results on this beautiful GTi on Bring a Trailer.
Woo.
Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that gonna be for sale?
It is gonna be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Oh my gosh, our brains have exploded. Welcome back to Bid Nerds, everyone. Sometimes when we hit that future button, we don't know what the future's going to be like. It's like that time machine movie. I don't know. I can't remember. Was it just the movie Time Machine where he goes in the future and like the moon cracked in half or something, and it's an apocalyptic world when he didn't realize, like, oh my God. Sometimes you can go too far in the future too fast and things just the whole world, there's a tectonic change. What the hell is going on with this result?
Oh my God.
Before we get to the result, make sure you guys hit the subscribe, like, and notification button if you haven't already. We're trying to grow this channel. You guys, Deep, do you not love these guys that are watching our show?
Absolutely. I mean, they're the reason why we show up. You know, it's like, come on, man.
I honestly don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know why they watch us, but gosh, dang, thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us and watching these results. Were you guys watching this result? I mean, if you were watching this episode, you were probably watching this car, or maybe you're coming in lately. You already know what happened. You're going, why? What the hell? Michael Deeb, the moment we've been waiting for, the results we've been waiting for. What's up? What happened with this GTi?
Holy frioli. All right, so JP, the incomparable 1992 Volkswagen Golf GTi 16 valve with 53,000 miles out of Middletown, Connecticut, broke Bring a Trailer over the weekend, John. I watched the last hour of this thing close, and I think it probably took 2 hours to close, but I watched the last hour, and I was texting you because I could not believe my mind. So, John, just to review really quickly, when we reviewed it last week, it was at $23,000. I said 38, and you said $40,000 to bring this baby home. We weren't even close. John, our car sold for $87,000 on 75 bids. Two guys fought it out for probably 90 minutes to try and win this thing, but $87,000 was the winning bid. I will say unequivocally, we've watched the market on vintage GTIs, vintage Volkswagens from this era, these Mark II era cars, change overnight. I predict and I truly hope that this will be the watershed moment for Volkswagens, that a lot of cool Volkswagens that have been sitting in the garages will now suddenly come to market this spring and this summer. A guy who's got a car that only has a few modifications on it can now justify spending the money to put it back to stock and bring it to market in hopes of replicating some of this kind of money. The comments were hilarious, John. I wish if you haven't already, go back and just page through some of the comments there over the last hour. It was funny to listen to people rant and rave and egg the two people on. One guy was trolling the other, the two guys that were fighting over the car. He's like, okay, you win. And then he'd let the clock went down to like almost 2 seconds. And then he'd put another bid, and everybody, like, 20 guys would be like, I knew it was a head fake. And I mean, it was just, they went on and on. It was all the things that are right with the online auction platform came to fruition on this lot. I would think it re-cemented Bring a Trailer's reputation as the place to bring your car to market, the place to have fun watching the action in real time, and a place where we see the market change right before our eyes. $87,000. I mean, John, again, this is not a 5,300 mile example. This was a 53,000 mile example of a GTI 2-liter 16 valve. I was right in my hunch that this car was special when I looked at the pictures and I reviewed the car and decided this was a car I thought you and I could have a little bit of fun looking after. My instinct was that $45,000 to $50,000 might be the winning number, but I didn't want to sound like a buffoon because we'd watched so many other cars go soft in the previous weeks since the beginning of the year, or the holidays, I should say. And we've just not seen Volkswagens be that strong. So I, again, talked myself out of the bid my knee-jerk reaction wanted. But even if I said 45 or 50, I'd have missed this thing by 30 grand. So, JP, I've been waiting to talk to you for 2 days. What did you think of this result? And I remember that this is a family show, and we can't just curse right into the microphone. We want to pick up more sponsors, and we don't want to offend the people at Godden. But my goodness, this is like, whoa.
Yeah, this is kind of a game changer. Look, we talk about a lot of Porsches on this show. Like, we talk about how we all had posters of 911s and things like that. But when you're young, those cars are kind of unattainable, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, they're difficult. They're difficult to attain now for people who do have income. So when we were young, the cars that were attainable, that were still awesome, were Volkswagens like this. The GTi was something that if you had that poster of a Lambo on the wall, obviously you're not buying a car like that when you're in your 20s, but something like this was absolutely a car that you would go out and gravitate to. And because they were inexpensive and so many people got them when we were young, and generations of young people, it wasn't just us, as we got older and sold our GTIs and bought, BMW or something else, kind of moved up the chain, then the next early new adopter of car enthusiasm would pick one of these up. So we've said it over and over and over again, the Mark IIs of this era, they're beginner enthusiast cars for anyone. And because of that, they've been cheap. And because they're inexpensive to operate, they're inexpensive to mod, there are lots of them. They all just got tuned and driven and beaten to living hell. So you mentioned, this one has 53,000 miles, not 5,300, which is what you would think with a price like this, right? You'd think this is, delivery miles. But look, if one of these exists with 5,300 miles, it's in a museum already, right? Yeah. It's at the Volkswagen factory. Yeah. I don't think there are any of these laying around in garages with no miles on them. I mean, I think this is as close to that as you're going to get. And with the condition of this one, the 53,000 miles and, treated very well. So, I mean, we've been wondering, go ahead.
Your friend up in the Pacific Northwest, we bring him up all the time because I'm in love with his GLI, your buddy up in the Seattle area.
Yep, shout out to my buddy Zach.
So Zach's is like the Calypso or Jade Green GLI, but it's essentially the same, almost same year and spec of this car, right?
Yeah, it's a 92,
16 valve with the
2 liter,
BBS. Yeah. Do you like? That car is in excellent condition. Would you venture a guess on what the mileage is on that car? Do you?
I mean, it's pretty high. I mean, it's not a 53,000 mile car. It's well in the hundreds, if not, I mean, high in the hundreds, closer to 200, because he's been driving it all these years. Right. And it's pretty darn modded too. I mean, suspension and stuff like that. I wouldn't say, anyways. But I mean, it wouldn't bring this kind of money. No way.
No, but it might be a $50,000 car now.
Yeah.
And that, that's crazy. So
I mean, finding a Mark II. Look, I'm sure everyone is scouring Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace looking for one of these. I saw someone. It was probably, I think it was Chris again from Overcrest, advertised. He has a set of these seats, these Recaro, cloth seats. He's like, seats for sale from an $87,000 car, $600. It's like, I mean, think about this car. This car sold for more than my Audi R8 did.
Wow, that's crazy.
Which car would you rather have? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are out there going, I'd rather have the 16 valve GTi. Look, I think the prices of these haven't come up not just because those of us who were young enthusiasts who are now old don't have a nostalgia for them. I think it's just that if you or I wanted to buy a car like this, we don't want the $10,000 one. We don't want the $20,000 one at this point because it's going to be beat up and roached. We want a nice one, and we would pay some pretty big money. I don't know about you. Would you pay this much for one of these?
No, hell no. But I like, if Zach's car, in my mind, I always thought Zach's car was probably like a 60 or 70,000 mile example stock for whatever reason. That's just because you described it as being so nice. I always thought, geez, would you pay $35,000 for that car? Everybody would say you're nuts. But man, looking back, it would have been a great buy by now, So anyway, I'm anticipating, John, that we see a lot more cool Volkswagens, especially this Mark II generation of the Golf Jetta platform. And I, for one, can't wait to see some of the cool cars come to market. Like these things might come out of the garage, and hopefully we see some nice ones like this. And even if they break the bank, it'll still be fun to see these cars. I appreciate them because they were there during the formation of my driving career, when GTIs were a thing when we were turning 16. So these cars have always been near and dear to my heart, even though I've never actually owned one of these. That one that's on the screen in front of us, that to me is the iconic. That's the the Targa wide body of Volkswagens. You know, like that's the iconic image of the car. That's what I picture when somebody says GTI. That to me is a GTI.
You know, you bring up my buddy Zach with his. I know his isn't for sale, but it's like, because there aren't many of these, like we said, left that are in good condition, and because the value of them hasn't been very much, there's been no incentive for anyone who's been sitting on a nice one to bring it to market. So you're right. Maybe this number and the publicity that this car is getting already will bring a bunch of these out of hibernation. Someone's going, yeah, I've been sitting on it because I like it, and I still drive it occasionally, but I don't need 20 grand, so why would I bother getting rid of it? Now they're going, oh yeah, I could use $90,000. That sounds, I could go finally get a 911, dang it,
I could put it in the pool and put my kids in private school.
So I don't know. What do you guys out there in the audience think? You part of the nerd herd, nerd nation? Yeah. Do you guys think that we're going to see a bunch of these? Oh, Michael Deeb has a question for you.
Yeah, I'd love in the comments. Did anybody see this coming? Now, again, I'm confessing that I really thought that this car might bring $45,000. Even though I chickened out of that with my bid. But did anybody see a north of 50, north of 60? Did anybody honestly think that $87,000 was on the table when we reviewed this car? I'd love to hear it.
It will be fun to watch in the comments because, a lot of people look, I got to hand it to you, Deeb. You got the number wrong on this, but out of hundreds, if not thousands of cars that were for sale on all the different auction platforms. I mean, what we do is we pick the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive auction sites, right? You dug through all of them and you found this one knowing that this was going to be something, well, not just, this one wound up being a lot more than just interesting. This one really is
special.
It's plate shifting here. But so, yeah, I mean, that's why you watch a show. Now, a lot of people are going to be watching the show after the fact, right? This will be published well after the results of this, but people play along a lot of times. They don't sift through all the cars. They don't know what everything went for. So if you're one of those people that were watching the show and made a comment before the break, that's how this show is fun. So you can prove your mettle. Did you make a comment? Did you predict this correctly? You know what you're doing? I don't know. We shall see. All right. It'll be interesting to watch the comments on this one. Thanks for playing along, everyone. Hit that subscribe, like, and notification button, and we will be back tomorrow with the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. Bid Nerds. See you guys tomorrow. Nerd!
Get those nerds!